Hey everyone, my name is Sam, and this is I Went to London, Lesson 56. You can watch all my previous videos on my channel in the playlist I Went to London. Today, we're going to talk about how to remember words easily. Have you ever learned a new word, felt really confident about it, and then, boom, the next day, it's completely gone? You're trying to remember it, but your mind is totally blank. It's frustrating, right? Don't worry, because today I'm going to share some super effective and fun ways to make sure new words stick in your brain. Before we get into the techniques, let's first understand why we forget words in the first place. Have you ever noticed that you can remember some words for years while others disappear in a day? Well, there's a reason for that. Our brain is like a giant storage room. But here's the thing, it only keeps things it finds important. If you don't use a word, your brain thinks, oh, this is not important, and it throws it away to make space for new information. That's why, if you don't review a word, it fades away. Another big reason we forget words is that we memorize them without any context. Think about when you had to memorize vocabulary for a school exam. You probably wrote down a big list of words, repeated them over and over, and then forgot them right after the test. That's because your brain didn't have a real connection to those words. And the third reason, not using words in real life. Let's say you learned the word enthusiastic. You know what it means, but you never actually use it in conversation. After a few days, it's gone. Your brain doesn't like keeping information that doesn't seem useful. But don't worry, there are ways to trick your brain into remembering words forever. Let's get into it. One of the best ways to make words stick in your memory is association. Our brains love connections. The more connections a word has, the easier it is to remember. So instead of just repeating a word, try linking it to something in your life. For example, imagine you just learned the word puddle. Instead of just saying puddle, puddle, puddle like a robot, think about the last time you stepped in a puddle. Maybe it was raining, you weren't looking, and suddenly, splash, your shoe got soaked. Now, whenever you hear the word puddle, you'll think about that moment and it'll be much easier to remember. Another great trick is using images. Our brains remember pictures better than words. So if you're trying to remember the word gigantic, don't just read the definition. Imagine a giant standing in front of your house, so big that his head reaches the clouds. The crazier the image, the better. And if you want to take this a step further, try using mnemonics. Mnemonics are little memory tricks. Let's say you're trying to remember the word procrastinate, which means to delay or avoid doing something. Picture a student sitting in front of a pile of books watching TV and saying, "I'll study later." That's procrastination. The funnier or more ridiculous your mental image, the easier it will be to remember. But here's the thing, just knowing a word isn't enough. You have to use it regularly. That's where a spaced repetition comes in. Instead of trying to memorize a word all in one day, review it over time. Here's a simple way to do it. Learn a word today. Review it tomorrow. Review it again after 3 days, then after a week, then after a month. Each time you review, the memory gets stronger. It's like exercising a muscle. If you go to the gym once, you won't get strong. But if you go regularly, you'll build a strength. Another powerful method is active recall. This means testing yourself instead of just reading. If you just look at a word and its meaning, you might think you know it. But if you close the book and try to recall the meaning, that's when real learning happens. Here's a simple way to practice active recall. Use flashcards. Write the word on one side and the meaning on the other. Instead of just flipping through them, try to remember the meaning before checking the answer. This forces your brain to work harder, which makes the memory stronger. But learning words doesn't have to be boring. You can make it fun by using them in daily life. One great trick is talking to yourself in English. It might feel weird at first, but trust me, it helps. If you're making coffee, describe what you're doing. I'm boiling water. I'm adding coffee. It smells so good. This way, you're using words naturally and they stick better. Another fun method is labeling objects around you. If you're learning the word mirror, stick a note on your mirror. That way, every time you see it, you reinforce the word. Writing also helps. Keep a small journal and write a few sentences every day using new words. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to practice and make words part of your active vocabulary. And don't forget about social media. Follow pages in English, read captions, and even comment in English. The more you interact with the language, the easier it will be to remember words. Now let's talk about listening and speaking. Have you ever noticed that when you hear a word many times in a movie or song, you remember it easily? That's because listening helps reinforce words naturally. So listen to English podcasts, watch movies, and try to repeat what you hear. A great trick is shadowing. This means listening to a sentence and immediately repeating it. It helps with pronunciation and memorization at the same time. And speaking, the best way to remember words is to use them in conversation. If you have a friend who's also learning English, try texting in English. Even small conversations help. But the most important thing, make learning fun. If you enjoy the process, words will stick naturally. Listen to songs, play word games, and create funny stories with new words. The more fun you have, the better you'll remember. To wrap up, here's what we talked about today. We forget words because we don't use them enough. Association helps. Connect words to images, experiences, or funny stories. Spaced repetition and active recall make words stick. Use words in real life, talk to yourself, write daily, and interact on social media. Listen and speak as much as possible. Make learning fun. Use songs, games, and storytelling. If you try even one of these techniques, you'll notice a huge improvement. So start today. Choose a new word, use it in a funny story, repeat it over a few days, and test yourself. You'll be amazed at how well you remember it. That's it for today's lesson. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.